Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline from the News and Observer, he is Steve Wiseman. He covers Duke. And did you just wake up from staying up all night working the phones to get confirmation on Mike Elko leaving the Blue Devils for Texas A&M?
Yeah, it was a late night. That's the grind sometimes. Planes come in the middle of the night, that kind of thing. So yeah, it was it finally got settled a little after midnight, probably. I don't know, 1 a.m., something in that range, but he's gone. He took a flight in the middle of the night and left town.
Okay. All right. So how did we get here exactly? Because over the weekend, I think Mark Stoops at Kentucky was the head coach at Texas A&M for about 3 hours. At least on Twitter, he was the head coach for about 3 hours. And when that fell apart, you started to see, all right, Mike Elko is going to be this next target. But why Elko? Why now? And what was Duke doing behind the scenes to potentially keep him around?
Yeah, it was Stoops for a while there Saturday. We thought we kind of dodged a bullet as far as that went from a Duke point of view. His Elko's kids were in the post-game press conference after Duke beat Pitt on Saturday, and I was talking to them about what bowl game they wanted to go to, and they were all fired up about maybe going to the Pinstripe Bowl. And so, they weren't like thought at that point that like he was getting ready to go to A&M the next day. Mm-hmm. So what happened was once Stoops, the thing fell apart with Stoops, they turned right to Elko. They were like, all right, we've had enough of this. Here's somebody we know. He's done a good job. And the time was right, I guess, for him. Time was right for him as well. Having had some private conversations with him, I wasn't sure if he'd be in this cycle or not. And he had said he was happy at Duke and he was comfortable with what they were doing. And as long as that continued, he'd be fine. But, when that bag of money's put in front of you, sometimes it might be hard to say no.
Yeah, I think people are confused on this one because I know there's a lot of people coming back at me like, oh, you said he wasn't going to leave. And I'm not going to sit here and get into who's right and who's wrong. I think in real life, Steve, stop me if you've ever heard this before. Things can change.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're having a conversation with his kids one day and then, with the deal with Stoops falls through. And I suspect Texas A&M came back with a better offer is what I suspect.
Exactly right. And, it wasn't like he was, Elko was first and foremost in their mind. It wasn't like he was out there beating the drum to get the job because, again, just 10 days ago, he told me personally that nothing was going on at that point. So me and a couple others that's where we stood. And this has happened quickly, but it's a job in the SEC. You don't have to worry about, conference falling apart kind of thing. The SEC's not going to fall apart. I know that was a concern of his. So, again, we always knew this was a possibility. And I think you guys said it too. He was never going to be Duke for life, right? I mean, that was not who he was. But he was comfortable here. He liked the academic part of it and all that. But in the end, you only get these offers every once in a while in your lifetime, and this is life-changing money for him and his family.
So we'll get out of here on this, Steve, and we appreciate the time. I know it's been a pretty wild 24 hours for you. Where does Nina King, the AD at Duke, go next for Duke football? For all the things that you just laid out too, in terms of where the ACC is going, the uncertainty of conference alignment and everything else. So where does Duke go next?
Right. I do know that last time in the search, the Marshall coach, Charles Huff, was somebody they really liked. And he'd only been at Marshall 1 year at that point. He'd been previously an assistant for Saban in Alabama. I'm not saying he's the number one guy right now, but that's kind of, I think, where they might be going is, maybe a head coach from a lower level conference. I mean, Charles Huff's salary at Marshall isn't even $1 million. So that's something Duke can really give him a nice bump and a lot more things to offer. So maybe somebody of that range, maybe possibility. The good thing about having another search only 2 years after the last one was a lot of those guys are still fresh. So it's not like there's a lot of.
What about Jimbo Fisher? I mean, because it's not offset language in the Texas A&M contract. So, I mean, you could probably get him for a bargain at this point.
How about that? Why not? Why not?
Why not? Never mind, he leaves programs in shambles when he's done. Why not? Maybe Jimbo Fisher's got time. Anyway, Steve Wiseman, News and Observer. Appreciate the time, man. We'll talk to you later.
Okay, guys. Thanks.
One thing I wanted to expand on, Joe, and again, big thanks to Steve for hanging out, because you referenced it. You know, people change their minds, situations change. When we talked about Mike Elko and Texas A&M, however many weeks ago that was, I think we were right. I don't think Texas A&M was something that he eyed when Jimbo Fisher got fired. He's like, that's the next job I'm going to take. But when it starts going down that list and they come to you and you see the money, I mean, look, the wise philosophers Wu-Tang clan said it best. Cash rules everything around me. And there's some other factors too.
I think if Stoops takes the job, then
it's over.
Mike Elko's
he's still at Duke. He's still at Duke. He's not at Duke forever. He's looking at another job after that, but he's still at Duke.
I'm surprised. I am surprised that he took the job. I am.
And you know the reason why I'm surprised? Because we know the end.
Right.
We know what's going to happen to. We know what's going to happen to Mike Elko in 5 years.
Well, he'll only get 3, but
okay. Fair.
I would say this. Here's the retort to that. When he took the Duke job, I would have said to him, "That's a dead end job. You're not going to win there."
Mm-hmm.
And he did in 2 years.
Okay.
So I would say the same thing to him today, right? Like at Texas A&M is a dead end job. So good, you got the money to offset that.
Yeah, man.
But the truth of the matter is, he did something at Duke that only Steve Spurrier had done. So maybe he can do what Spurrier did at Florida too. Look, he's going to have to beat every odd to do it.
Right. That's it. Well, Texas A&M is a strange place. It's different from other
and
top
he has
programs.
Been there. So
and he has been there on the coordinator level. He's not. Yeah. He doesn't have to meet
not
with
at the crazy level.
He doesn't have to meet with the dog. Like, are you going to imprint yourself? Was it the Reveille is the name of the dog? He has to imprint himself. People will analyze the photo to see if the dog is vibing with Mike Elko. I'm not making this up.
It's a complicated job. Yes.
And then you got to deal with the Yale leaders. You got to get people to come play for you.
And now
you're
going to make me save the clip. But yes, Don Draper. That's what the money's for.
That's what the money is for. I get all that stuff. Yeah. But what I'm surprised by is Mike Elko struck me as somebody that would want to go to take the Penn State job, as you said, or the Michigan State job or something like that. But maybe he's just looking, and this was pointed out to me by somebody. Actually, it was Dimitri who pointed this out to me. It's like, never underestimate backsliding in college football and your windows. Okay. So who's to say that, you know what, I'm going to skip out on this hiring cycle because I don't want the Texas A&M job. I'm going to wait for the Penn State job. I'm going to wait for XYZ. You're a hot name now based on what you've been able to do 2 years at Duke. You might not be a hot name in year 4, even year 3.
Right.
And you come off that list and you might find yourselves in a Mark Stoops situation where Texas A&M wants you and then it goes to the board and they're like, wait, what? Because remember, Mark Stoops was the hot shit for a while there too. And they're not exactly coming off a banner year at Kentucky. So you end up in that situation that we've seen at Tennessee before, where they go, you're not hiring that guy. And then Greg Schiano, Dave Dorn to a certain extent. And all of a sudden, you find yourself on the outside looking in for some of these jobs. So you know what? If the money's there, the money's there. I still don't think that from where we were a couple of weeks ago when Jimbo Fisher got fired, and we talked about Mike Elko, that we were wrong in how we talked about it. But the hiring cycle, the coaching carousel is funny business, man. And here we are. Peace out to Mike Elko. Be curious to see what Duke does next.